So provoked by the arrival of these two despicable characters who represent single-use plastics and disposable throwaway fashion, and their sort of despicable use and destruction of plastics really wakes up this creature for the first time, who comes up out of the water and appeals to them directly to think about the responsibility that they can have in making a change that will have a much greater effect. And I think that's exactly the message that we want to get across through the performance, through something that is engaging.
We've been working on this disposable character and trying to find a sense of recklessness, almost like power and disrespect in our body language. And for me, I change that throughout the piece, but I start off as this aggressive disposable.
We are obsessed with consumerism, this kind of complete disregard for objects and belongings and actually any value of those things. And we come on all loaded, loads of stuff from the trolley, and end up just kind of creating complete chaos.
We worked on a lot of contrasting movements, and we looked at catwalks and wrestling and this sense of bravado and aggression, and finding movements that were slow but then suddenly jerky and quite unpredictable.
Really sort of about anarchy and kind of a complete disrespect for space and even each other at times, and then the audience as well. So sort of how our relationship to the space and to each other can be developed through this kind of hyena movement, this sort of bravado, this kind of very stylized movement. And a lot of it's about how we relate to each other, how we relate to the audience and the space. I mean, we take it to the extreme, so it's a little bit grotesque and we're actually quite dislikable.
Castaway is a fiction. It is based on the idea that living in the waterways, living in the canals, there are keepers, and these are creatures whose job it is to maintain and look after the canals, waterways and rivers.
My role is kind of a spirit of the waterways, and over years and years she's been pushed down to the bottom of the waterways with all the pollution and all of the rubbish on top of her. So she kind of emerges out at this moment after the disposables have been there, and we kind of just work with the idea of the different physicalities of being in water, and just kind of taking it on a journey of teaching people about how to look after the waterways and kind of how best to stop destructive behaviours.
We have a bit of a fascination with flight and with aerial, but almost aerial without strings at Highly Sprung. And following on from our flying rig that we used for Urban Astronaut, we've created a brand new fully gyroscopic flying machine, as well as the performer being harnessed and on pivot points, which allows them to tumble as well as turn. It's a real feat of engineering, and the performer has to really combat and fight against physics sometimes, which is really exciting. It leads to a brand new way of moving and a brand new form of aerial and performance.
My role is spent entirely on the rig in a harness, which is a really exciting and new way of moving for me. But in terms of the story, I think it kind of creates this ethereal otherworldliness about her, and it kind of creates a really obvious difference between us both.
Yeah, so I see this almost mythical creature arrive out of the waterways, and she comes up from this bed of rubbish and netting, and she's caught in it, and it's a new sight for me. It kind of takes me out of my environment. I sort of fall in love, and it's like revelation, and it creates a conflict in my character, and then also allows me to gain more respect for myself and the environment that I'm in, and she teaches me that way of living.
I hope that we can appeal to people to see that even small changes that we make can have a difference, and to provoke discussion around this pollution problem that is affecting our waterways today and for the foreseeable future. And we really hope that the performance is engaging enough to ask people to start having those discussions as families, as individuals, and hopefully as communities.